That night, the desperate voice coming through the radio waves changed my life forever. So what was that moment that changed your life? Secretly helping soldiers trapped behind enemy lines wasn't a choice for me, it was a necessity. Don't forget to send your own stories to the email address in the description.
I am Sarah Mitchell. On that cold winter night in 1943, I was 22 years old and serving as a radio operator at Mildenhall Air Base in England. My brown hair was always in a tight bun, my green eyes constantly focused on radio screens, my thin but strong hands dancing with Morse codes. I was the night shift radio operator that night, and I had no idea that nothing would ever return to normal. It was past midnight. I was alone in the radio room at the base, with only the humming of equipment and the sound of winter wind from outside. The walls were cold concrete, flickering fluorescent lights on the ceiling, tables filled with radio equipment and transmitters. This was my world. With a warm teacup in my hands, my eyes scanning the frequency settings, I suddenly heard that voice. "Mayday, Mayday, this is Bravo 72, we're trapped." The voice was so weak, so desperate. My heartbeat quickened. I knew the official procedure in such situations. I should immediately alert higher-ranking officers. But that voice, that desperation, it was as if it touched my soul. "Bravo 72, I'm here. What's your position?" I whispered into my microphone. "God, someone's hearing us." The voice belonged to a young man, maybe my age, north of Normandy, about 3 miles inland. Were 5 men, 1 severely wounded. Germans are everywhere. My hands started trembling. These soldiers had no chance of requesting help through official channels. They were too deep in enemy territory. Any official rescue operation would put other soldiers' lives at risk. But could I just sit there and abandon them to death? "What's your name?" I asked. "Michael Thompson, from Minnesota. Listen, can you do something for us, please?" The desperation in Michael's voice moved me to action. "Michael, listen to me. I'm going to help you, but you must be quiet. Switch frequency to 4.285. From that moment on, I repeated the same routine every night. During the day, I did my normal duty, and when I was on night shift, I contacted Michael. I gave him and his friends critical information to help them survive. German patrol routes, safe water sources, abandoned farms where they could find food. How did I obtain this information, you ask? During the day, during casual conversations with my fellow radio operators, I carefully listened to reports coming from the battlefield. When entering and leaving map rooms, I noted positions from the corner of my eye. During pilot debriefings, I stored the details they mentioned in my memory. Every time I heard Michael's voice, my heart began to beat rapidly. This wasn't just information exchange, it was as if we had formed a spiritual bond. He told me about his farm in Minnesota, his little sister Jenny, his mother's apple pie. I told him about my home in Ohio, the evenings when my father sang, my mother's rose garden. "Sarah," he had said one night, "your voice gives me hope. I know you're an angel." "No, Michael," I had said, "I'm just an ordinary woman doing what I can." In the 3rd week, the situation became critical. One of Michael's friends was in very bad condition. The wounded soldier John Williams was a tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy from Texas. He was only 19 years old and the wound on his leg had become infected. "Sarah, John's fever is very high. He's delirious. I don't know how much longer he can hold on." Michael's voice was breaking. That night, I took the biggest risk of my career. Using official channels, I sent a message to partisan groups in that area. Of course, this was completely against protocol, and if I was caught, I would be tried in military court. But John's life was in danger. French resistance group, there are wounded American soldiers at coordinates 49.3528, 0.1278. Medical assistance needed. Contact frequency 4.285. The next night, there was a different tone in Michael's voice. Sarah, you created a miracle. French resistance fighters found us. They're giving John medical help. How did you manage this? Sometimes, Michael, the right people are in the right places at the right time, I had said with tears in my eyes. In the 4th week, it was time to implement the final plan. I had drawn a safe passage route for Michael and his friends. I had identified the safe point in the coastal area and arranged a rescue operation with a small boat coming from the sea at midnight. Sarah, tomorrow night we'll probably be talking for the last time. Michael's voice was both sad and hopeful. Yes, Michael, but this isn't goodbye. When you return home, to your farm in Minnesota, I'll be thinking of you. That last night, the plan worked perfectly. Michael and his friends reached the coast. With the help of French resistance fighters, a British naval commando boat evacuated them to a safe zone. Even John, thanks to medical assistance, had survived. But the story doesn't end here. 3 months later, my commander Colonel Robert Harrison called me to his office. Colonel Harrison was a 50-year-old, gray-haired, stern-looking but fair man, tall, broad-shouldered, somewhat lined from war experience but a trustworthy commander. Sarah, I have some things to discuss with you, he had said sitting behind his desk. We checked the radio logs. What you did. Technically it was against orders. My heart stopped. I had been caught. But, he continued, you saved the lives of 5 American soldiers. And you accomplished this without putting any other lives at risk. Then he took out an envelope from his desk and handed it to me. This is for you. When I opened the envelope, a letter came out. It was from Michael. Dear Sarah, I'm writing from the farm in Minnesota. Without you, I couldn't be here. I told my family about you. My mother, father, Jenny, they all know of your heroism. One day, if you permit, I would like to visit you. Because you're not just a soldier I met through voice, you're my life-saving angel. Tears came to my eyes. Colonel Harrison smiled and said, Sarah, you know you're the pride of the Army, don't you? After the war ended, in the fall of 1946, Michael actually came to visit me. When he came to our house in Ohio, I was seeing him face to face for the first time. He was a tall, brown-haired, wheat-complexioned, handsome young man with a beautiful smile. But most of all, that voice, the voice I knew from the radio. Sarah, he had said holding my hands, seeing your face is more beautiful than everything I dreamed of. During that visit, Michael also told me about his friends. John Williams had returned to Texas and was running the family farm. The scars on his leg were still there, but he had become a strong man. He had married and had 2 beautiful children. He sent me a thank you card every year. You know, Sarah, Michael had said that evening, sitting on the porch, those nights talking to you on the radio, it wasn't just about surviving. You gave me hope, but more importantly, you reminded me of my humanity. The deep sadness I saw in his eyes when remembering those days, those invisible wounds that war left on men. Michael had told me how 3 of his friends had died. Tommy Rodriguez was only 17 years old, came from California, and always talked about his mother's enchiladas. A German sniper's bullet took him just 2 days after he went to the front. Tommy's last words were Mama, Michael had said with tears in his eyes. That's when I realized that in war, it's not just soldiers who die, but someone's son, someone's brother, someone's beloved dies. Another friend, David Kim, was a Japanese-American boy from Hawaii. Another friend, David Kim, was a Japanese-American boy from Hawaii. At a time when his own country looked at him with suspicion, he had chosen to fight for America. He had lost his life during a tank attack in Normandy. The letter found in David's pocket was the last letter his father had written to him while he was in an internment camp. David never lost his faith in America. Michael had said. Before he died, he told me, this country isn't perfect, but it can be changed. That's what we're fighting for. Listening to Michael's stories, I understood what a great impact my small help had. I hadn't just saved the lives of 5 soldiers, I had also saved a person who could pass these stories on to future generations. Sarah, Michael had said, you didn't just give me a chance to survive. You gave me the opportunity to come home and tell these stories. You gave me the chance to keep the memories of these friends alive. That night, Sitting on the porch, Michael proposed to me. Sarah, those nights I talked to you on the radio, I had fallen in love with you without knowing you. Now that I've seen your face, I love you even more. Will you marry me? Of course I said yes, but the first years of our marriage weren't easy. Michael, like other war veterans, had nightmares at night. Sometimes he would wake up at midnight shouting, "Sarah, Sarah, where's the radio?" In those times, I would hug him and talk to him in my radio voice until he calmed down. "I'm here, Michael, you're safe, you're home," I would whisper in his ear. In time, we healed together. Michael rebuilt his farm in Minnesota. I accompanied him there. There, emerging from the shadow of war, we built a new life. We had 3 children, James, Susan, and Robert. We named each one in memory of our friends we lost in the war. Years passed, our children grew up, married, started their own families. Our grandchildren came. But every year, on the anniversary of that rescue operation, we sit by our old radio set and remember that night. Sarah, Michael says every time, I still hear that angel's voice, and I still hear that desperate soldier's voice. I say to in 2010, the last surviving person from Michael's friends, Robert Murphy, visited us. He was 80 years old, his hair completely white, his hands shaky. But in his eyes there was still that young soldier's fire. Sarah, he had said that day, you weren't just a radio operator for us. You were our hope. You were our home. Robert took out an old photograph from his pocket. It was their last photo together, taken in Normandy, of 5 young soldiers. I always carried this photo with me, he said, trembling, and every time I looked at it, I remembered them along with the voice that came from the radio that night. Michael and Robert talked for hours that day. Old memories, the friends they lost, how the war changed them. I listened silently. These 2 old men still carried the souls of those young soldiers. Sarah, Robert had said as he was leaving, do you know, I got married too. My wife Dorothy was a nurse I met after the war. I always told her your story. She always said, we should meet that angel one day. She's no longer with us now, but seeing your face is also a gift to her. That night, sitting on the porch with Michael, you know, he had said, we're not just war survivors. We are Sarah, the ones who keep that night alive. Thanks to you, that story will live forever.
So friends, that's how my story with Michael began. The friendship that started from radio waves first turned into love, then into marriage. Today, we have 3 children and 5 grandchildren. Sometimes at night, I sit by our old radio set and remember that night, how a small voice can change lives. Hope exists even in the darkest moments. You just need to be ready to hear it and respond to it. Each of you has had such moments in your life too. Maybe you didn't realize it, but you have changed someone's life.